Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting, Monday, February 19th, 2024. With that, if we could have roll call, please.
Luther.
Here.
Bursted.
Here.
Sutherland.
Here.
Yanko.
Here.
McCullough.
Here.
Schweppes.
Here.
Gentz. Solberg.
Here.
Schlew.
Here.
Erdman.
Here.
Sommerfeld.
Okay, no special recognitions this evening. That takes us down to approval of minutes. If anybody would like to approve the minutes, now is your opportunity. Ryland, go ahead, please.
I'll approve minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to Ryland's motion? Jeff Luther?
I'll second Ryland's motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving down to public hearings. No public hearings this evening. That brings us down to public comments. Public comments is a portion of our meeting where anybody can speak on agenda items for the evening. If you please come up to the podium, sign in, please give us your name and your address, and we try to hold this to 3 minutes or less. So if anybody would like to speak, now is your opportunity on agenda items for the evening. Please come on up to the podium under public comments.
Patrick Gallagher, representing Stepping Stones of Dunn County, 1602 Stout Road, Menomonie. I'm here to update the city on our Care and House shelter. And in general, it has been going very, very well. We've provided our shelter program since it opened more than 1,500 shelter nights to the folks in the community that are homeless. The majority of those are from people who were last established in the city of Menomonie, and almost 2/3 are from people who were last established in residence in Dunn County. So these are our neighbors, and the building that the city has been very involved with, and I know you've been doing extra work to keep us going on. It's doing what it was supposed to do. I shared statistics with you. Behind those statistics, I go over there every day, and there are just some really fantastic people who are struggling, and they're getting a lot of assistance from our case managers, from community partners who are coming on site to meet with them. We've got Workforce Wednesdays. Workforce Development comes on site on Wednesdays and counsels people on getting employment. It's really doing what it was intended to do. So I wanted to thank everybody here at the city who was involved with that, make sure that I keep you in the loop on how things are going, given your investment in what we have been up to. And I know we do have a couple of agenda items. One of them is related to that shelter. So I will be here on site through the meeting if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, public comments is open. If anybody else would like to speak, now is your opportunity to do so. Last call for public comments. Okay, we'll close public comments, move on with the rest of our meeting. Under unfinished business, we have none. Under new business, we have 6A, proposed ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance annexing a portion of 650th Avenue, also known as Eagle Point Road, from the town of Red Cedar, and it would take it from there. Dave?
Yes. Yeah, so I think we talked about this at our last meeting when you approved filing the petition for this annexation. So this is 650th Avenue from County Highway B through the second curve. It's out north of Anderson Distribution, south of the Creamery, and then kind of runs to the back corner of the newer steel place here. The petition was what we discussed at our last meeting. The map has been updated based on some feedback we got from the state as we sent in the initial petition. So 650th, there's two sections of it. This blue area that's east and west. This was actually purchased by the city and then not included in either of the annexations, either for the Packer property to the south or the property to the north, which was part of TID 13. This section, the town recently sold back to us back in 2022. or 2023. The red area was purchased with the Packer property and then dedicated as right away, but never annexed. So those are the two parcels. If you look in the annexation ordinance, there's parcel A and parcel B. That's why there's two parcels there. They're really the same area, but we're extending kind of around the corner there. And like we said in the past, we're just kind of filling in this area in between previous annexations. In your packet and on the screen here is the ordinance that is that we are recommending. One change in paragraph 4 or section 4, we would like to add the paragraph or the sentence at the end of it. The current population of the territory is 0. This is right of way, and to my knowledge, no one is living in it. The state would like to see that statement made in this annexation ordinance. So it is on your agenda tonight for introduction, and then you can waive the first reading, waive the second, and approve. If you'd like to wait a couple of meetings, you can certainly do that as well. But it's at your pleasure, and I'd like to proceed.
Thank you, David. And if anybody'd like to make a motion to introduce this, we could do that. If you'd like to just introduce this, I guess.
I'll make a motion to
Well, I
introduce.
guess you don't have to motion, just introduce it and then we'll pass it
I'll
off.
introduce this ordinance.
Okay,
And then I have a question as well.
yes.
Is there any drawback to annexing in this piece of property?
No, it actually helps us because we'd be plowing it, et cetera. But David,
I mean, I assume that comes with a cost as
Yeah.
well.
So
Well-
we actually already took jurisdiction of this from the town. The town gave us jurisdiction back in 2017. So we've been plowing this road section of the roadway. The only drawback that I can see is that there's a farm on the corner there that doesn't have a legal access to a town road, but we can create town islands. That's not an issue. So that would be the only thing I can imagine. They're gonna have an address off of a road that is now our road, and we're gonna probably rename it as Eagle Point Road. So they're gonna have a street address off of a street that doesn't exist, if that makes sense.
Okay, take any other questions? Okay, we have an introduction. If anybody'd like to make a motion to waive the rules, we could do that at this time. Waive the first reading, I'm sorry. Chad.
Like to make a motion to waive the first reading?
Okay, motion been made to waive the first reading. Is there a second?
I'll second Chad's motion.
Okay, thank you, Laura. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, if we need a motion to waive the second reading, Mary?
I would make a motion to waive the second reading.
Okay, is there a second to Mary's motion? Penny?
I'll second Mary's motion.
Motion been made and seconded to waive the second reading. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And Rylan, would you like to make a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt said
And with-
ordinance with the addition of section 4, that the current population is 0.
That's a good motion, Ben. Good motion, thank you. Is there a second to Rylan's motion? Chad, go ahead.
Second, Mr. Ryland Kirkman's motion.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? Oh, roll call.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlu,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Firstad,
Yes.
Sutherland.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That takes us down to 6B, proposed ordinance 2024-04, and ordinance amending Title 10 farming regulations, possible introduction and referral to Plan Commission. David?
Yep, I'll take that one. So in our code, we refer on several occasions to farming, livestock, and poultry. Those three phrases are never defined. And so as we're going through our code, I'd like to avoid terms that aren't defined. And so I'm recommending the definitions that are based on Wisconsin statutes. So in your packet, there's a definition of farming as any of the following activities conducted for the purpose of producing an income or livelihood, crop or forage production, keeping livestock, beekeeping, nursery side, Christmas tree production, floriculture, aquaculture, fur farming, forest management, or enrolling land in the federal agricultural commodity payment program. So this definition sets forth how we interpret farming to be, because there's you can imagine there are some folks that would want to interpret it one way and we want to be clear on what we intend. And then the terms livestock and poultry will be defined based on state statute as well. The one caveat that I will say in the ordinance, we do specifically exclude domestic pets from either livestock or poultry. So
David, just for clarification too, we do have a chicken ordinance in town.
correct,
As long as they play by the chicken ordinance rules, that doesn't fall under this farming guidelines.
correct.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Urban chickens, as long as they follow, I think it's Title III, would not be considered farming.
Very good. So what we need to do is, if you support this, we would just introduce this and then pass it along to Plan Commission. So if anybody would like to introduce this, we could do that at this time. Chad?
I'd like to introduce this.
Yeah, and so this being the ordinance amendment title 10 farming regulations. And so it's been introduced. If anybody'd like to, Ben, you got your pen. So if anybody'd like to make a motion to pass this along to Plan Commission, we can do that at this time. Oh, we need a, well, it's just an introduction. Correct. So Penny? Did you have your mic on?
I was just gonna say that I would back up Chad's introduction if necessary.
Yeah, we just need a motion to pass it along to.
All
Plan
right,
Commission.
then I will make a motion to pass the ordinance for the Title 10 farming onto the Plan Commission.
That's what we want. Okay, thank you. Is there a second to Penny's motion? Eric, go ahead, please.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Ryland, go ahead.
I just wanted to, had some clarifying questions here. This is not changing what is actually allowed in the city. It's just clarifying what each thing is, because like I know a number of people in the city that have bees and people that have horses and on agricultural property.
Yep. So
So that will still be-
agricultural zoning is allowed in the agricultural zone. The second portion of this 10.4.2, this is a section that pertains to conditional uses in non-agricultural areas. So let's say you have a property that's zoned R1, but is more than 5 acres. There was a provision in code that you could have horses or cows or what have you, but the way it was written was it was peculiar the way it was written. So I tried to clear it up and say it a little more clearly what the actual requirements are. But if you're in an ag zone, other than defining what these things are, the actual use wouldn't be changed.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't pulling our rug out from underneath anybody either.
And Mary, you had your hand up too.
Yeah, I had the same question about beekeeping. I was concerned that we were going to be ruining it for some people that I know are already doing it.
If we ever do a zoning change in the future on it and it's already allowed in an area and say we change it, they're grandfathered in at that point. It would just be anything new from that point on, but this isn't changing it. It's just basically clarification on stuff. But for the future, if we do go through a zoning where we are changing allowable uses on it, as long as it's allowed at the current time prior to the ordinance adoption, they'd be allowed after their grandfathered in.
Thank you, Ben, for clarification. Laura?
I had a question on 10.4.2. 10.4.2, section C. Says a buffer strip shall be provided. Do we have to define that at all? Are we worried about a definition of a buffer strip?
I contemplated that in the ordinance, and the problem is that it really depends on how big the field is, how steep the field is. And so I ended up suggesting that we leave it a little more vague.
Okay.
There are other standards that we could apply mostly in our erosion control ordinance that would suggest how wide that buffer strip should be. But I chose in this case that I didn't think we can get into the nuance of that without knowing some more about each of the.
That makes
fields.
sense. Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to pass this along to Plan Commission. So with that, we'll just do a regular vote. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to 6C, consideration of Cedar Corporation task order for Lake Bank Trail feasibility study. There was some information in your packet regarding this, and David's got an image up on the screen here. What I call it as a switchback trail, basically down to the lake. We're looking at options for this. It could be a boardwalk style trail with planking and so forth. We kind of ruled out the steps because of the steepness of the bank, and then of course handicap accessibility. We could also, for a few years, we could also put in what we call a cow path, so that there's just on the ground trail, maybe with mulch or whatever. But I would like to pursue this because I think I would like to see us put down a slip dock or a docking mechanism down on the lake bank on the southern side. Just for reference, this is near our water, refinery water.
Well, number 8.
Well, number 8, yes. Well, and yeah. And so it's basically right behind the Buck on the south side of the lake. So with that, David, I'll hand it off.
Yeah, so just to kind of give an idea of what this would look like. So, we don't, at this point, we don't have access to the lake from downtown. I'm old enough to remember the old red stairs over by Marshall's Drive-In, but those have been gone for longer than I care to admit. For a while, there was an agreement with the property owner just to the west of here. That agreement doesn't exist any longer. And so this would be a way to try to make a connection there. If someone wanted to come and have dinner in downtown, they could come and lay in at a courtesy dock at the base of this. So I put together this sketch here last summer to kind of define the problem. And then Cedar Corporation has prepared a task order to do a feasibility analysis of this. They'll give us an idea of what the cost would be, and exactly how we would make the slope to do that without disturbing the existing trees and grass and that sort of things. We really don't want to cut into that slope and potentially destabilize it. So their proposal was $18,000. This is a TID eligible cost, and we have far more than $18,000 in TID 15. And so we're asking for input from the council here. Once we have an idea what this cost would be, obviously this is not a go. This is let's make sure we understand what the scope of this is, and then we can make an informed decision if this is something that you wanted to proceed with in the near future, or maybe it gets shelved for a couple of years and gets built in 3-4 years. But until we have an idea on what that cost is, it seemed a little premature to ask you folks for formal approval.
The other thing I'd like to add on that, the other caveat is, once we have that information from the engineering firm, we can apply for grants and other things that we would not be able to do at this time. So I think it's important and prudent for the future of any kind of development. Lee, go ahead.
Have we considered putting in a lift instead of a trail?
I have not.
Well, and maybe that could be added on
I
to
think
the
that's something
project.
to consider. I've been in some communities that got that from going up, or people have them if they have a lake frontage and it's a long ways down, but it would seem to be and that also would satisfy the needs for people handicapped. I guess
That's a good suggestion.
Right up and down.
That's a great suggestion. I think we'll pencil that into the need study, David. So, okay. Thank you. Good idea. Mary.
So, and I really like Lee's suggestion. So are we going to get possible costs of like mulch and like you mentioned stairs with planks
Mhm.
and then possible lift?
Yeah,
We're
I
going to
think
get costs for all those?
I think all that would be studied. Right now, I think they would do borings and samples of make sure that because if you do a boardwalk, and put pilings in, they have to be stable. If it's just a cow trail type thing, then it's just mulch or whatever. So it's a lot of different areas but I think they would give us probably an overview of different ideas. David, go ahead.
Yeah, we can certainly get a rough estimate on what a funicular would cost there, and whether that's something we want to be maintaining for many years. But yeah,
Okay.
we can have that looked at.
It's a pretty wide scope. I think this is the starting point. Any movement on it, of course, will come back to council. But we need to approve this to get started. So go ahead, Gretchen.
I'll make a motion to approve the task order from Cedar Corporation for Lake Brack Trail feasibility study at a cost of $18,000.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Lee, go ahead.
I'll second up.
Motion been made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Right, Chad, go ahead.
I mean, are we gonna are we gonna concrete that whole walkway down there?
No.
Does it have to be handicap accessible? I know it's a nice, but I don't know how realistic it is.
Yeah, I don't think we would be using concrete. We'd either be looking at stairs or we'd be looking at boardwalk style, or we'd be looking at mulch for now, or maybe a ride up lift besides. So there's options. We just don't know what the best options are, and that they're going to do a study on it. This was a what do they call it? At University of Wisconsin capstone project about right after I got here, 10, 12 years ago. They looked at it but at the time they were looking at stairs going down, and it just wasn't real feasible as far as, stairs and handicap and all kinds of accessibility. So I think this one has more merit as far as a switchback, and there'll be resting points on the way down too. So, okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlu,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berstead,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That brings us down to 6D, consideration of inspections department purchase of a pickup truck with ARPA funds, discussion and possible action. David.
Yes, so the inspections department is in a former police cruiser that is, I think, 126,000 miles on it. It's showing some wear. The brakes are. I give Dave a little bit of a hard time. Maybe he's a little rough on the brakes, but it's been in the shop a number of occasions to get the brakes repaired. As you can imagine, a police cruiser takes a little bit of a beating, and this is showing its age. So we did go out for quotes. We received 3 quotes: Northtown Ford, Kai Chevy, and Marquardt. The quotes range from $37,500 to $57,988. Mr. Kwiski is here tonight to make a recommendation, and I will turn it over to him.
David, you want to step up the microphone, please? So why would you need a pickup truck? And I know when you pull up with the police interceptor, people just take off running. I don't know if it's you got the hard hat on or if it's the vehicle you're driving. So
how much traffic I hold up in a day. Speed limit.
So what do you throw in the back? Why would you prefer a pickup truck?
Ladders. I like to carry a couple more ladders that I need. Some of these basements that we get into when I get checked for electrical service or so, they're 9 foot. I can only carry a 4-foot ladder. So I'd like to carry a little longer ladder that can be extended. I have one now. I just can't put it in the car. So if I do go grab it, I got to put the front seat down and so forth. But so I think a pickup truck would just be more viable for what we carry, for what we have around. I do pick up signs. I do pick up, every once in a while I'll pick up garbage bags if they're laying garbage on the road. If it's laying out there, somebody's left, I'll throw it in the back of my car. It kind of stinks. So it'd be nice to have a truck. So that's what we're looking at. I did go out and test drive both the Ford Explorer or the Ford Ranger and the Chevy Colorado. I've been blessed to be tall, so that Colorado gives me more headroom. And more legroom versus the Ford Ranger. And so really that's my reason to pick the Colorado. Even ergonomically, working the buttons and stuff, it just seemed friendlier. So because of the price difference of only $500, I'm actually requesting the Colorado with your approval. If it was more than that, I probably wouldn't, but that's my reason.
So it's got a little more headroom. Do you ever take any passengers? Dave, do you ever ride in a truck with Dave?
I don't know. I fit in the Ford Ranger, but we'll see about the Colorado.
All right. Do you have any questions for Dave while he's up there? Yes, Gretchen, go ahead.
Is there a gas mileage difference?
They're pretty comparable. I think the Ford Ranger is a little bit better. If I look at the notes, you can build the trucks online. And I think the Ranger did come out a little bit better.
Most of it's around town driving. I don't know if it pays, but Lee, go ahead.
What trim level is this?
This is their work truck. It's a work truck LT. Both of them are. They're not a upper scale level truck.
Yeah, I was wondering if we want to go up a trim line. We had problems when Randy came and we got the cheapest pickup, which was it was a pretty bad truck. And I'm just wondering what the difference would be to go up a trim line.
I'd have to find out. I don't know. I mean, I know the Colorado's an LT package, so it does have the power. I mean, all of them both had a power windows, power doors, heated seats, cloth seats. I mean, it's not basic by no means. Like I think in the past, Lee, like we looked at.
So LT is a step up from a work truck.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a work truck LT and that's how, and the Ford Ranger terms it a different way. You're not gonna see the shinier rim tires.
Lee,
Make a motion to accept the quote from Cali Chevrolet for a 2024 Chevy Colorado pickup with ARPA funds at a cost of $38,000.
okay, good motion. Is there a second, Penny?
I will second Lee's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Go ahead,
I guess I
Eric.
just have one question is, what are we gonna do with the cruiser? Is that a trade-in or is that gonna be research or repurchase?
I guess that would be for the administration, Eric.
So we're gonna hold on to that car for just a little bit because we'll be looking at adding another inspector. And then, so once that other inspector comes on board, we'll have that person utilize that vehicle for the meantime until we can plan another purchase of a vehicle for our 2025, 2026 capital improvement projects.
That was a good question and good answer. Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Schwebs,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlue,
Yes.
Erdmann,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berstad,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough.
Yes.
Okay, good. That brings us down to 6E, consideration of community service department purchase of a half-ton pickup truck from Northtown Ford. David?
Yeah, so this is maybe a little kind of an oddball. So you actually approved the purchase of this vehicle back in January of 2023. I think it was January 16th of 2023. The provider at that time ordered the vehicle. The vehicle didn't come in until about a month ago. And when it came in, they indicated that the actual price had gone up by $3,500. And so we said city staff didn't feel like that was appropriate to come back to you folks for another $3,500 without rebidding it. And also we had a valid quote at the time, so we just didn't feel like that was appropriate. So we did send this out for quotes. We sent it out to all the local firms. We got quotes back from Northtown Ford and Kai's Chevy. Northtown Ford was the low for a 2024 Ford F-150 at a cost of $41,944. That's actually a savings over what you had approved at the last time this was considered, and considering that was a full year ago, that's a pretty good deal. So we are recommending the purchase from Northtown Ford of the Ford F-150.
Okay, thank you, Penny.
Is the Northtown Ford truck available and on the lot now, or is that something we're gonna have to wait for?
It is not on the lot. I've talked to Jason Mysick there, and he said that they should have it within 60 to 90 days.
Penny?
All right, then I will make a motion to approve the purchase of the 2024 Ford F-150 pickup from Northtown Ford at $41,944.
Thank you. That's a good motion. Mary?
I will second Penny's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Chad?
Good question. So the truck that we ordered, and then they delivered it, and then they wanted $3,500 more. That was from Northtown Ford?
No, that was from Kai's.
Okay, all right, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the other caveat that I want to add to this is, it's great to be able to patronize local businesses. I know years ago, 10, 15 years ago, when I first got here, the bids would go out all over. They'd go to Bloomer and Baldwin and everywhere. So I'm glad that we're able to contain the bids to the local vendors as much as possible. And I'm glad that they are willing to give us really good pricing on the vehicle. So I want to hats off to our local vendors and staff also for obtaining those quotes. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlue,
Yes.
Erdmann,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berstad,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwebbs.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That takes us down to 6F, consideration of fire department purchase of fitness equipment with ARPA funds. Fire chief is here if we have any questions. Otherwise, it's pretty self-explanatory. Eric?
Yeah, this was originally presented from you or in front of you when we brought forward with the recommendations for ARPA funds. Fire chief has collected quotes about replacing equipment, and this would be replacing fitness equipment at both stations. So both Station 1 and Station 2. Yeah, this is coming from the bid that he would like to go to is going to an organization that we have utilized in the past. And we're hoping that it'll receive council support. Chief Class is here today to talk a little bit about the fitness equipment, and I see he's got one of his other staff members here with him too.
Okay. I guess it's up to you, chief, if you have any more to say than that. Otherwise, we can move it forward. Okay. If anybody would like to make a motion to support this, you can do that at this time. Mary?
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of fitness equipment from Dynamic Fitness and Strength as presented by the Menomonie Fire Department with ARPA funds for the amount of $29,923.53.
Okay, thank you. It's a good motion. Is there a second? Go ahead, Laura.
I'll second Mary's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Schleu,
Yes.
Erdmann,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berstead,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schwebbs,
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That brings us down to 6G. Consideration police department purchase a flock camera system with ARPA funds. I see the police chief is here also this evening. Eric?
Yeah, so again, just like the fitness equipment, the flock cameras were presented before when we gave out the list of recommended purchases for ARPA funds. The flock cameras are a license plate reader technology camera that has helped detect crime. It also allows for the connection with other communities that have flock cameras. So your Eau Claires of the world, Hudson's of the world, they have it. There are other communities as well, so we're all would be integrated in those systems. So if we have robberies, burglaries, or other kinds of incidents, we can look at those intersections where we place those cameras and we're able to determine is this person a potential suspect or not, and help us solve those crimes. Chief Hollister is here and he can describe the process that they use to look at the flock cameras and what benefits that he thinks they may provide to the police department and overall community.
And it's up to council. If we want to hear from the chief, we can. Otherwise, if we're good to go, if anybody would like to make a motion to support this, we can do that also. Mary?
Are we getting only 6?
Come on up, chief. You gotta push
Yeah,
the
I want to hear from the chief.
you gotta push the button down.
Good evening. Six cameras, yes. Actually, what's cool about this is there's so many agencies getting these cameras at this time. The sheriff's department's getting 10 and we're going to ask for 6. And that way we can strategically put them around the county in different locations. And we try to put them, ideally, you'd like to have them at every intersection, but you can never afford that. So we try to hit the high traffic areas.
That makes sense? Great. Eric?
I have a question. I read up on this a little bit, and I believe that generally the policy is majority of the data or the photos taken are purged at a certain time after the event or the photos taken.
Yep.
Is that generally like 30 days or?
30 days is what it is.
Is that what this system will do as well?
Yep. 30
Is there
days.
means to hold on to some of that data? For instance, if there's a situation where maybe a crime or something hasn't been resolved, where you can, create a situation where you can forego that 30 days and extend it to help the investigation or something like that, I guess.
We can do a timeline and we can download that timeline section, but then you have to have like a descriptions of vehicles or some type, something like that, because you're talking thousands and thousands of cars that go through a day. So you'd have to network that way. And then you could also work with other agencies that have it. So if you got a crime in, let's say Altoona, and we have that same crime over here, we'd be able to maybe use different identities or suspect information to gather information.
But there is a set of guidelines you guys have to adhere to, or all
Yes.
agencies have to adhere to ensure that, the
Yes.
privacy of the citizens
Yes.
is upheld, is what I'm most concerned
Yep.
about. All right, very good, thank you.
So do these have anything other than just recording what they're actually seeing? Do they say, look at your license plate number and record that you drove through that intersection at this time? Or anything else like that people are going to be concerned about?
Really what it is it'll show vehicles going through an intersection and it'll show license plates. And example, if there's a crime or something like that within the community, and let's say you don't have a license plate or you have a partial license plate, you can type that information into the computer system. And let's say you're looking for a white Ford with a sticker in the rear view window. It'll pull up every white Ford with a sticker in the rear view window and get you narrowed down to your suspect. A good example, some of these things are like the Wisconsin had a ATM that was taken probably a month or so ago, maybe a month and a half ago. And people came into town, they stole the vehicle and they hooked onto the ATM machine. It was just loaded with several thousands of dollars. They took that ATM machine, they left the city. So by the time we got there, they were long gone. So now if we're looking at the flock cameras maybe being in place, here's what you can kind of look for. 7 out of 10 crimes are usually committed with a vehicle in some sort, way, or form, or shape. So they had to get here in the city somehow. So usually if they came here to steal a vehicle, that means they probably have a chase vehicle with them or people that's going with them. Come to your community, steal the vehicle, do the crime, and then leave in another vehicle. Well, in this case, they stole the vehicle and they left the community, and also another vehicle had to be going with them because they eventually ditched the other vehicle after they were trying to other ATMs. So there's just a number of things you can do with this that's going to help us. So in this case, we might not have, the vehicle was stolen from our community, so we understand that. But was there maybe we narrow our timeframes down for major thoroughfares in the city, coming to that bank area, and now do we have that chase vehicle that was delivering the people the first time around to get the vehicle? So you got to look at it that way. Barron County had a armed home invasion, and an elderly man was beat up and stuff was taken from him. It was a pretty good armed robbery. So with that being said, these people leave and they're caught on flock cameras, and then they do other information. And so now they know who they're looking for, look at gas stations to get better information on these people, and it's solved, and these guys are arrested states away. This is Barron County. I mean, Altoona had a homicide incident and the body was dumped in the southern part of the state, or Illinois. And that's how they solved this case, was through the flock cameras. They got the cameras down there and they're showing the vehicle that was left up here in Altoona. You can just go on and on with these success stories. I think it was the Wisconsin credit union robbery last fall. A suspect was identified, and they knew who it was, but they didn't know where he was. And they got him days later going into Bayfield, Wisconsin. Flock camera system identify him. So they can pinpoint out if there's wants on license plates. For example, if a plate comes through town and is stolen and it's wanted, and like say Altoona's wants it for something like that, for a homicide or something like that, it would alert that vehicle's in our town. So just a lot of things you can do with it. And as crimes are becoming more transient, people will look at our community from maps, and they've never been here before. They'll come to town and do their crime and leave. Well, how do you find these people? So all of a sudden now, if you have a camera getting them into town, or you have them hitting all Walmarts along the interstate all the way down to Milwaukee, you can start pinpointing that, get suspect information and intelligence. So a lot of things you can do with it.
Mary.
Chief, can it tie a license plate to the car so that it'll know that if it's a fake plate, if it's a wrong plate for the car?
You can do that stuff, and it keys on the plates. It doesn't key on the driver. So you're not. I know everybody's worried about everybody saying who's in that vehicle. We're looking at the plates and the vehicle suspect description. If we can get that, that's going to be a game changer alone for us.
Any other questions for?
Yeah, Rick, you said that you could find the white Ford because of a sticker in the back window. That's got to be loaded into a database someplace to begin with, isn't it? So is everybody's car going to be picture taken of it, or?
Well, it holds it for 30 days, that the image of that vehicle. It'll hold that license plate in that vehicle for 30 days, and it's just able to break it down for what you might see on a vehicle. So if you have a hit and run or you have a robbery suspect or something like that, or a violent crime, you have a vehicle description, you can say, I'm looking for a Ford or a Ford with a dent in the car. You can type that information in. It just scales it down for you for what you're looking for. And then you might get your hit that way. Does that answer your question or not, or?
Yeah, the other thing I have a question about, you can buy this masking stuff to, you put over your license plate that supposedly, when you run a red light and there's, they can't read the license plate. Can you still read those?
I haven't heard of that problem with the flock. It's new technology, but it's just been very successful, and I can surely follow up on that.
Gretchen?
Well, I think the hesitance is, of course, is that fine line between security and safety and violation of privacy, as you stated. So I'm just curious if say we're pulling all the Fords with dents in them, which I would assume would be most of them in town, actually. How do you, what level? It's just the police that are reviewing this.
Yes.
And then how are you narrowing? Because you're not connecting with individuals until you have a identification, or how is that process?
You're not, when I say it's bringing all your white Fords in there, obviously there's going to be some other information you're building off of that vehicle for information. Does that vehicle have this other information you're looking for, a partial plate? Does it have a sticker? And then when how many are going to have that, it's going to narrow that down for you. It's kind of like you guys aren't seeing it today, but we're doing geofence warrants all the time. It's for when there's a robbery in place and people are carrying cell phones. So what we'll do in that instance there, if we don't have a suspect, but we know something happened there, if it's a violent enough crime, we can search off the towers and ping off the towers who was in this area. And so if they're carrying their phone in an area, I'm carrying my phone and I'm doing a crime, it should hit my phone should be hit in that area, and they should be able to track me down for being in that area by doing the tower dumps or the geofence warrants.
So let's say you're doing a search like that, and you're determining who your suspect is for a particular crime, and you happen to see something suspicious for a potential completely unrelated crime. What happens in that instance if you see something happening in a camera while you're searching for one crime?
We're always going to follow up on a crime. That's
yeah. Well,
yeah,
like something like a misdemeanor or something that may not actually be. I guess, yeah, you'd want to see the other crime happening, but there's no sweep happening.
The sole intent is to solve the crime we're looking at. Sometimes when we're trying to solve crimes without this, we solve other crimes. I might be looking at this crime and I uncover 4 or 5 other crimes. It's just, we got to win some. So that's a good one. I'd want that if it was my house.
Kind of too, yeah.
Penny?
With all of the businesses and places that have cameras in place, I think that this makes sense for the city. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the purchase of the flock camera system as presented by the Menomonie Police Department using ARPA funds in the amount of $57,900.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second time, Mary?
I would second Penny's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Erdman,
No.
Luther,
Yes.
Burstan,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough, Schwebs,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlu.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving down to 6H Menomonie Police Department Annual Report presentation by Chief Hollister. You put together this packet of things in the packet this evening, good stuff, and a lot of things happening. I was really pleased that he had put all the mission statement, the vision, but then of course the commanders, the lieutenants, and the officers besides. So, Chief, you're on.
Well, thank you there, Mayor. I appreciate you asking me to come here and talk a little bit about what we've been doing this year. It's been a busy year. And as I look at 2023, I say, my gosh, it's a lot of different department heads here. We've got the city administrator, we've got the public works, we've got the treasurer, we've got the police department, a lot of moving parts. But I come into it excited, and I'm excited to work with an experienced council and a trusted council and mayor. So I thank you for your support. April, I became the chief, and I was very humbled to receive that title and be your chief. And with that being said, I looked at some things, and one of the advantages I had to coming into this department was I'm internal. And so I've gotten to be around with a lot of these programs we developed. They've been around for 10, 12 years. They're evidence-based programs. And so a lot of times when new chiefs come into a department, they will redo all your programs, a lot of your programs, and it costs money. Hundreds of hours that have been invested are wasted. And so I've got knowledge that what's working for our community and what we can tweak up. So we were in a good place that way. And under the former administration, I got to work closely with Eric as far as for building some of these programs. So they're good programs, and we looked at that. And so we said we're gonna continue with community-oriented policing, and we're gonna keep our programs. Some of the programs that we're talking about here: domestic violence response team, Project Hope, that's a big one. The quick response team, drug endangered children, the child abduction response team, the youth response team, and the evidence-based bot and training program for kids. That's a program where our officers are in the schools teaching the kids. It gets us hands-on in front of the kids, and it's a great networking tool to have contact with our youth today. So that's some of the things that we're going to keep doing, and if we like them, we're going to make them better and move forward. And one of the things is Project Hope, which is just entering the third phase out of 3 phases, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. By the way, this is probably 2 hours of information in here. I'm going to get this done in less than an hour. So you got a fast talking chief here. I'll get through this. So where we're at is as I look at all that stuff we're doing and some neat stuff, I thought, where can we go to stay professional and keep offering a high service to all of you in the community? And I look at it, and for me, it's having our people operate at a high optimum. If the officers are operating up here, they're going to give this back to the community at the same level. So that was my focus here. And so it comes down to, we looked at officer physical and mental wellness, and that's what we're targeting, and that's our initiative. I spoke to the administration, and they were aboard with it. So that's what we're running. Some of the things we've done this year already, we brought in things such as working out on duty. And everybody says, well, man, they're going to pay the officers to work out on duty. I look at it this way: officers are athletes, and you need to have them in shape. And when you're working 12-hour shifts, 6 to 6, you don't get home to 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Now you got family time, you're running kids, you're doing house chores. Pretty soon it's 10 o'clock at night. And now all of a sudden you're thinking about getting back up for work the next morning at 4 in the morning. So when do these people do something? So if the staffing allows for it, and we can handle the calls for service, we'll afford that to the officers. That's just one of the initiatives. Another thing that we're doing is peer officer support, peer-to-peer networking, so officers can talk to each other. I think that's very important. It's a strengthening thing, and it's been a big trend the last 3-4 years. Coaching and mentoring sessions, that's offered to the officers. We're going really strong with that area, and I'll talk more about a psychologist we got coming in pretty soon here. But probably the biggest thing that was the neatest thing that I thought we did was we created a wellness room this year. In a wellness room, I started doing some research on it, and it's a room where officers can go. It's a quiet room. There's noise canceling machines in there. There's a lazy boy in there, and we're not the fire department. I say that with fun. I have a lot of respect for these guys. But so what we have what that's for is, so officers, you get into busy call to call, the fast pace, the high level of calls, up, down, and your body's all over the place. So taking all that into context, it's just sometimes nice where an officer can go and step in this room, take 15, 20 minutes, sit down and decompress and debrief whatever you need to do. There's some stretching yoga straps in there where they can just totally relax and decompress. And it's a good place for officers. And with that, when we see all that, the administration's hope is that we're gonna reduce stress, anxiety, depression, improving officers' sleep habits, decision-making, overall job performance, interpersonal relationships on a job and at home. And again, all this comes back to keeping our personnel operating up here so they can give back up here. So that's the big thing. So I'm really excited about that. I'm getting some good reviews back from the staff at the police department. And so a peek into 2024, I want to look at mandating officer wellness checks once a year, where they are checked in with a clinician that's certified. I'm still working on funding for that, but we did book with a national speaker, Dr. Rachel Zemlock. She's coming out from the West Coast, and she's going to be speaking to us on aggressive time management. She's a renowned speaker that we couldn't normally afford to have come out here, but we already partner with Lexipol. It's evidence-based policy machine that we use, proprietary, and I think Eric, the city's going wide with that same source. So by partnering with them, they said we'll send her out to you. All we ask is you pay for her plane tickets, her lodging, her rental car, whatever, food. So she's going to come out here, and that's all we're on the hook for. Otherwise, our training budget would not have even competed with it. These speakers are anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a crack. And we also partnered with the Cedarbrook Church. They're going to let us host out there because we need some room out there. We're going to have 2 sessions, and she's going to speak, and we're going to open it up to all law enforcement, firefighters, emergency personnel, anybody in law enforcement. So I'm hoping to have that thing filled, that church, both sessions. And we'll open up this whole area of Wisconsin. And I'm hoping that we can bring back something for the families of the law enforcement, because aggressive time management is how can the officers be successful at work, and how can they be successful in their off time with their families? If you look at most officers, my gosh, I tell you what, you're looking at depression, suicide, you're looking at divorce rates are high. I can go down the list, anxiety, because you're at work, you're up and down on these calls all the time. You go home and you just kind of crash. And where does the activity come in with the wife or the other husband that's been holding the fort at home? So that's why we're looking at it. And when Dr. Zemlock comes out here, we're going to bring in the spouses or the significant others to come to this conference also, so they can be part of this and see what we're looking for with the officers and what we're seeing to identify things. So that's kind of a neat thing we're looking at. And that's it for 2024. And then if we go through the manual a little bit there, Dave, you can go to the next page. Just the key thing about that page there is you need to know is for 4 or 5 years, we've been down 4 and 5 officers. We're always trying to fill our needs. We're always having vacancies. It's a tough job right now to be in, and there are good applicants out there, but that says we're going to be, as of January, we're going to be full. That's the first time we'll be fully staffed. That's pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited about that. That was another one of our initiatives, was to go out and look at recruitment retention, and we've done that really hard, and we've expanded that in a number of ways. We're down into the school systems now. We're interacting with kids to see if they might be interested in law enforcement. We're into the colleges. We're doing internships at the police department, and we're getting firsthand a look at these kids that are coming into the police department, and we can decide if we want to hire them or not. We've hired 3 or 4 interns, and there's been a couple of Menomonie high school kids that we've hired also that came through the high school process. So that's kind of a cool thing with that page. Next page here, Dave. Goals and projects. I tell you that the Zen room is in there. That's what we call the wellness room. It's the Zen room. And the definition of that is that employees can go and decompress and remove themselves from the triggers of the outside. That's what that room's about. And that's what the saying is on that door. And if you're ever bored and you want to do something, come on out to the police department. Be happy to show you what the room's about. Menomonie Flooring donated the flooring to this darn thing. Our VIPs below, if the picture below, and that if you scroll down a little bit there, Dave, gotta keep up with me. I'm fast talking. John Oakland on the bottom there, he's in our volunteers and policing program. He installed the floor for us, so there's another $300-400 we saved. The guy on the right is Bill Swanek. These guys come in every Monday and they do squad checks for us. They make sure the squads are full, they're stocked, they're washed, they top the oils off. And so the guys can jump in the cars and go. And this is just the community support we get back from these guys. And they never ask for anything other than we give them cake and coffee every year. So, and a challenge coin, but awesome people. So that's pretty cool. And then looking forward to 2024, we're going to continue looking at recruitment retention. We're adapting a new design for the squad cars, just a little freshness there. And the patrol people have worked on that. That's coming out. We're evaluating our record storage space so we can digitalize everything and get rid of the hard copies and get space needs taken care of. Next page here. I won't go through this stuff here. There's always notable cases that we put in here. And if you want to just read those, they can be interesting, or they can pique some questions and give me a call. I'll be happy to answer the questions, but there's some pretty intense cases in there. The one is our critical officer involved incident there, where we had the shooting last January. And as we talk about that, I'd like to acknowledge our friends over in Burnsville today. We got 2 officers killed and a firefighter killed in line of duty. That's just in our backyard. And just a reminder that these things happen quick, like it's dangerous out there. And I tell you what, we had 3 killed in this area last year. So it's there. And this is why I talk about the officer mental wellness, keeping these guys up and paying attention to things out there. And so that's one of the reasons also. Next page there, Dave. I guess just the stats page for NIBRs there. That's just how we report stuff federally, the nationally incident-based reporting system. A lot of stats and figures in that. And what did you say, Dave, when you called me the other day?
It's sure seems like it's coming down from last year.
As a friendly we can do that. It's
Some
not.
fine leadership there in 2023. Good job, Chief.
I'm gonna have to pay attention. I got the fire behind my back now, and I got you up front. So, and then the next page, call data. Next page here. What's cool about that page is there's 11,435 calls we responded to last year. There's a lot of stuff cooking out there. I tell you, there's the top 10 calls that we went through for services. Like traffic stops were 2,783. And you go down to the Morris Assist. But the thing to think about that is all those cases. And then I've got a couple paragraphs below that we talk about where some of the resources and the people we partner with in the community. And when we work through these cases, we try to get our patrol officers to solve these crimes by themselves and work cases from the beginning to the end. And it gets them ready for when they become investigators. But if it needs intensive resources, we'll bring it to the investigations bureau. And then also with that, we work with a lot of collaborative partners in the community. And you got the Stepping Stones, you got the Bridge to Hope, Arbor Place, Dunn County Veterans Office, and a lot of others too. But those are some of them that we work with. We are not successful unless we have partnerships in the community. And it is what it is. Traffic data, the only thing about that is there's 2,883 traffic stops, 612 resulted in citations. So everybody does not get tickets. That's out there. 332 traffic crashes, 54 had injuries. Driving while under the influence or impaired, 111 last year. Next page here. The crime data one there, this is a significant one, and this is some of the programs we work with. Is domestics are a real thing out there, and we had 195 cases last year. 95 ended in arrests, and with that again is some of the programs we have. We have the lethality assessment program we used, and we were one of the first agencies to implement that program, and that was under Eric Atkinson, and it was kind of cool to implement that program for assessing what services we need to provide for these people. And then we offer a follow-up services for domestic people where we respond back to them at a later time with our domestic violence response team. So a lot of good things in that area. And then you get down to the drugs, drug-related cases. We've had some 3 overdose calls where we've administered Narcan. We've got some officer saves coming in there that we've got. And so that's a really neat thing to see that. We've had 15 overdose cases. And when you look at that circle of stuff over there, it doesn't look like a lot of numbers, but those are numbers in the city that we had seizures. So example, the meth is 33 times we got meth. Doesn't mean that's all the meth cases we're working. We're working a lot of meth cases, whether it's thefts, assault, whatever it may be. But that's where the Project Hope comes in. And that's where that program targets the drug area. And there's another page that we can talk about that. I'm trying to speed through this so I can keep you awake here. Next page, Dave, would be the data quality. We're also partnering with, the lower one there, data quality analysis. Under Eric Atkinson, we started partnering with Center for Police Equity. And it's just to make sure we're doing the right things, or is there anything we can do better that would come out if we're looking for deep data dives to change our practices. And one of them came up with like our use of force usage. We always track our use of force, but it was always a hard copy before. I knew what my shift was doing, but does the next shift know what happened? And is there a problem with these officers, or is there something we need to look at? And so what we did is we got that a different form placed into our Zerker records management system, and everybody tracks it now. But just by having that vision of what can we do better to get ahead of the game, sometimes it helps us. Next page, involving the youth in our community. This is where it starts to get fun, and there's the Bottomville Life Skills Training again. That's our evidence-based program, replacing DARE a little bit. It's with substance abuse, peer pressure, violence, and stuff like that. Again, it's a great way to get our officers into the schools. And then below the junior police program, that's the way we're getting our hands onto these kids to see maybe do they like law enforcement? Do they may want to go into law enforcement? And we give them the basic aspects of what we're doing out there. And if anything, they have information on what it's about, and they can get their own questions answered even if they don't go into law enforcement. So it's a community relations tool also. But if they do well with it, they can go to the advanced Citizens Academy, and they learn high risk stops, vehicle searches, how to do crime scenes, and they get to compete across the on the side of state in Appleton, and our people have won that before. Actually, Officer Tyson Call was one of these kids in this program, and they went across to the state, I believe it was, and they won their competition. This guy comes back, ends up working for us down the road, high school kid. So pretty cool stuff. And it's our own kid. That's homegrown. That's what I like about it. Project Hope. Man, what a big program. I tell you what, I could talk all day on that. And if you think I could talk on it, those two guys up there could talk a lot on it. They were just down in Madison looking for funding for us. We need to get funding. We're looking for a plan B if we don't get it, but I support it, and I can support it when I have the support of you in the council, and I appreciate all you do for it. But it's a great program, and we're doing some neat things with it. And so we should just have one night where we talk just about that. Can't say enough about it. And we're partnering with the Sheriff's Department with that. They've also committed to 24 and 2025 for working with us. And we're going to work together for more funds and go from there. The last page, and I'll leave you alone. This is the fun part of policing, giving back to the community. It's the cool stuff. We do shop with the cops for back to school. They get backpacks, all their school supplies, and I'll tell you what. Talk about giving back. These kids are just a hoot to watch. And then we do shop with the cop for Christmas, where they get Christmas gifts and clothing, needed clothing. And so we always get a list from the parents. What do you have to have? And then what's the fun stuff? But this doesn't come free. We get donations from the community. People send in pledges. Walmart gives us big bucks for this. And one story with this year, I had a 12-year-old that I went out with. I had $150. That's my store coupon. And so I knew he needed maybe a sweater and something else. And I said, I was talking to the kid's grandma, and she's, this is what we should have. I said, okay. So I asked this kid, and I said, what would you like to have today? And I said, we got $150. Let's spend it all. We're not giving a penny back. And I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna be talking Game Boys and all this other stuff. I want socks, just some socks. What does that tell you? My heart went, oh. So he got socks, and he got an extra pair too. But and then he wanted to gift for his brother who wasn't there. So that's the part that's just cool. So that's my story on that one. We do National Night Out. That's a chance for us to get close to the community. They can see our toys and all the fun stuff. We do Cops on a Rooftop, Special Olympics, making money for Special Olympics. So when you see our guys on the roof at Dunkin' Donuts, give them the hoot. Coffee with a Cop, Citizens Academy, Winter Days, Community Cookout, Menomonie High School Homecoming Parade, Trunk or Treat, Leadership of Menomonie, the Lions Club Giving Forgiveness for Christmas, excuse me. The May Day bike event, we give out bikes. And our last thing we just did in January was we took 7 identified kids ice fishing. And so that was kind of fun. We had sponsors from all over, from Minnesota. Altoona came over, and these kids went home with fishing poles and ice fishing swag that I don't have. And we grilled out on the ice, and we did catch some fish, by the way, too. So there you go. So you probably won't ask me up here again. Like, how long?
Actually, no, I have a whole list of questions for you never covered. So Well, first of all, you're fully staffed. I understand. That's the first time in how many years?
I've been doing scheduling before I came into this job, probably for 5 or 6 years, and it was before that we weren't need staff, so.
Well, that's awesome. The other thing I wanted to comment real quick on, thank you for keeping Project Hope alive and well and moving forward. I know when Chief Atkinson came on board first 10, 11 years ago or whatever it was, I was faced with a lot of complaints about our police department over the top all the time, every week, many complaints. And he suggests, well, I'd like to make some changes and we get into the community-based policing. And I think a lot of these things, the kids, the community involvement, all that stuff is all community policing. And I think that's made a huge difference. And it's also tailored our police officers that they're not all about arresting everybody that they pull over and hassling and that type of thing. It's a communication and it's a community-based policing. And I appreciate that. How many years have you been with the police force?
Well, with this one, probably 33 and then, but total 38.
So you should know what you're doing by now.
Some days, most days.
Yeah.
But I know where to ask and look for my resources. Let's put it that way.
Good answer. Okay. Questions for Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
I'd just like to say thank you to you and your team. And also, I really support you working on the mental health aspect. I think that's going to be fantastic for everyone involved. So keep it up. I think that's going to be great.
Good to hear.
Any other questions for the chief? Chad?
I'm just curious if the legalization of marijuana in Minnesota has affected this area and how.
I don't think it has. They can't have it here. And are we going to deal with it? Yes, we'll always deal with it. And it's just, there's so many things to work on and what's our focus. And if I got the pick of the day, it's going to be the heroin, the meth and stuff like that. But we'll address everything, but it's kind of where it's at. And I think the bill sounds like it's going to die anyway in Wisconsin if it hasn't. So you can argue it in several ways. Yeah.
Good. Any other questions for the chief? Well, thank you, Chief, for being here. I had to have one other question. I don't know, maybe I know the fire department's got their drone up and flying. How is your drone doing?
It was wounded.
It was wounded.
It's back. It's back. Yeah, we had it crashed. We had a malfunction. So and it was computer oriented. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I tell you what, that's one for them, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Chief, for being here and a good report this evening. Thank you for all the information. Appreciate it. Okay, moving forward, that takes us down to 6I, special event permit for the Beat Stepping Stones, discussion of possible action. Go ahead, Rylan.
I would make a motion to approve the special event permit for the Beat from Stepping Stones.
Okay, is there a second to Rylan's motion? Lee, go ahead.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On 6J, change order number 8 for Stepping Stones, discussion of possible action. David?
Yeah, so this should be the last change order for the project. You can see in the description, there's still a couple of minor issues related to the showers that we've talked about on a number of occasions. And then also there was some lack of plumbing for there's 2 sets of washers and dryers and only one of them was accounted for on the original bid. So we are recommending approval of change order number 8 in the amount of $5,072.99.
Okay, if anybody would like to support this with a motion, they can do so at this time. Right, Jeff?
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 8 with Cedar Falls Building Systems for the Stepping Stones Homeless Shelter Project for an increase of $5,072.99.
Okay, a good motion. Thank you. Does anybody want to second that motion? Lee?
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Luther,
Yes.
Gerstad,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schweppes,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlue,
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Great, thank you. That takes us down to 6 K, the 2024 Joint Electronic Collection Event Agreement. And Megan is here tonight to speak if we need to. Otherwise, we're looking at the town of Red Cedar and the town of Menomonie and the city of Menomonie having a joint collection held at the City Community Services Department Department shop on April 25th, 2024. Did I miss anything, Megan? Okay, if you'd like to support this with a motion, you can do so at this time. Ryland,
Yeah, I would like to support the joint electronics collection event agreement.
thank you. Is there one a second Ryland's motion? Gretchen?
I'll second Ryland's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That takes us down to 6L. Resolution providing the prepayment and redemption of a portion of the outstanding $3,070,000 general obligation refunding bond series 2015B. Eric?
Yeah, it was a mouthful, that's for sure. So as you may remember, we had made a resolution last year for TID number 12 to take funds and move those into our affordable housing account. So as we transition into 2024, we're making those movements now to actually close TID 12. Well, part of this is we have some outstanding debt that's left over from an obligatory bond from 2015 for the amount of about $270,000. What we would like to do and what we're proposing to do and asking for council's support is to do an early payoff of that bond. TID 12, thankfully, is very financially healthy, which is part of the reason why we're looking at closing it. Taking the $270,000 out of our TID number 12, paying the remaining amount on that obligatory bond, and then that'll thus save us about $11,000 in interest for that particular bond. And then the next steps after that is then to actually close TID 12, which then would move approximately $711,000 into our affordable housing account. So we're inching closer to that goal. So what we're asking for today is then for your support to be able to pay off that bond, to approve this resolution and pay off that bond early.
Go ahead, Gretchen.
I was just wanted to ask, what was our timeline for closing TID 12?
2026.
2026? Okay,
I believe that's right.
just saw it.
Well,
I mean, there's a deadline for it. We need to close it this year in order to be able to recapture the
Okay.
funds for the affordable housing.
Right.
I mean, we could technically wait on it, but
Okay.
April 15th, I believe, is our drop dead date before
Okay.
that to get that money transferred over. So we need to do this process first, and then in the next council meeting, you're going to see the closure of the TID 12.
but I believe if I'm accurate, David, am I accurate? We could extend this out to 2026. Is that accurate?
The amount that we're prepaying right now, the payments go out to 2026.
Yes.
The other option we could do is we could put this money into an escrow account and we could make the payments as originally laid out.
But then
But
we
in
don't
this, in
save.
this case, we save about $11,000 in interest.
Right.
It's easier for us on our ledger side that if we have it closed, we just have it closed versus having this money hang out there,
Yep.
planning on our budgeting side to do it with the TID closed out.
Good. Thank you for clarification. Good question. Okay, so if anyone would like to support this, we could do so at this time with a motion. Chad.
I have a question.
Oh, go
So
ahead.
this is just closing out the TID. This is not putting the money into the affordable housing yet.
No, this is not closing the TID.
I'd like
This
to-
is providing the prepayment and redemption of the portion of outstanding $3,070,000 general operating bonds. So it's to pay off the bond, basically.
I'd like to
early.
make a motion to approve resolution 2024 dash, I don't know what, doesn't say what number it is, a resolution providing for the prepayment and redemption of a portion of the outstanding of $3,070,000 general obligation fund refunding bonds series 2015B.
Okay, I think that's okay. David, do we need any more clarification?
Yeah,
on
it
that?
is. It is resolution 2024-02.
2024-02.
Okay, thank you. Good motion. Thank you for clarity. Is there a second to that motion? Go ahead, Mary.
I will second Chad's motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Firstad,
Yes.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schweppes,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlü,
Yes.
Erdmann,
Yes.
Luther.
Okay, good. Thank you. Budget transfers. I know there's one tonight regarding the Menomonie Police Department for some more lockers for about $1,500. Eric?
Yeah, so within your packet is a budget transfer request from the Menomonie Police Department. They have their full staff. So they ran out of locker space that they share jointly with the Dunn County Sheriff's Office and then the Communication Center. What they are asking for is a transfer of $1,500 into their account that they use for office and maintenance. And what that money normally would come from, and I believe Chief alluded to that earlier, is that they have an account with Lexipol for their online policies and development. Because we switched to CIC insurance, which also saved us a considerable amount of money here in the city. They also pay for Lexipol for both the fire and the police. So those funds are available to transfer if you so approve.
Thank you, Eric. If anybody'd like to make a motion to support this budget transfer, we can do that at this time. Go ahead, Laura.
I move to approve the police department budget transfer for the storage lockers as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion, Gretchen?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Sutherland,
Yes.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Yes.
Schweppes, Solberg,
Yes.
Schlue,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berstad.
Yes.
Great, thank you. That moves us down to mayor's report. I don't have a whole lot to say other than we went to the Madison last week. Eric and I went down to Madison. Dave had to stay back for some other business, but we attended 5 or 6 other meetings, and we'll cover a little bit more of that in the communications portion. So, Eric?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So last week, the mayor and I attended the Wisconsin Housing Economic Development Association's event for looking for different vendors and developers that work on affordable housing projects. So there we presented our ideas and thoughts about affordable housing here in our community and submitted some draft proposals for developers to consider. We've had a couple developers that have reached out with some interest, and we're planning on bringing out a full request for proposals here in the very near future. So we have interest in developers that would like to come to our area, and these are developers mainly in the Milwaukee-Madison area. And we've also had on our local levels 2 developers that have also expressed interest. In addition to meeting with the Wisconsin Housing Economic Development Association and related developers, we also were there for an Urban Alliance meeting, which talked about latest updates and also grant funding that's available and program funding related to electric vehicles and some of the legislation that is coming out with that. So that was very interesting to learn more about that process, especially as we consider adding electric vehicle charging stations in our community and what that could potentially look like. Then on top of those 2 events, the mayor and I had an opportunity to meet with the mayor of Madison and her deputy mayor, who's in charge of their housing initiative. So we learned about the various different housing initiatives within the city of Madison to help create various developments, from helping landlords rehab their properties to helping single-family property homeowners rehab properties, make them energy efficient and compliant with current laws. Also, they created a variety of different districts in their area too as well that can help create funding mechanisms to try to improve housing opportunity from affordable housing to medium level housing. So that was an absolutely fabulous meeting. And then after that, we attended a meeting with the Department of Health Services. Department of Health Services, their director of their opioid initiative, which handles all of the funds and recommendations that they provide to the Joint Finance Committee based on the opioid settlement dollars that were issued. Wisconsin received a large sum of money for opioid settlement dollars, distributed 70% of it to the counties. The remaining 30% was retained by the state. And the state every year, Joint Finance asks for proposals from health services on what to do with that money. We were there to talk about Project Hope and about trying to create statewide programming that would provide training to do similar type programs with Project Hope, as well as technical support and software case management, which has been a critical component to the Project Hope program that's local. And they're very interested in that, and they have requested more information that we will provide for their consideration as they make their proposal to Joint Finance. And then our final meeting was meeting with the governor's chief of staff to talk about our healthcare issues that we have here, mainly related to Prevea closing, and then this new gap and barriers that are being created. We already have significant barriers here in our area due to rural healthcare, and now it's just made even more grave. They were, of course, very kind and reassured that they are working with Prevea and other providers to try to bring in people. They said that they have had 6 other healthcare providers that are interested in replacing Prevea and taking on their properties. So that remains to be seen how that pans out for our area. We're keeping our fingers crossed and working diligently to try to address those needs. So overall, very productive week.
Thank you, Eric. So interesting thing is we went down for one meeting, the Urban Alliance meeting. And I said, Eric, as long as we're going down there, maybe you and Pam can put some things together and contact some others, contact the governor's office, contact Department of Health Services, contact, we also I talked to some people from WIDA while we were down there. I also talked to a fellow that is the head guy, the executive director of League of Municipalities and so on and so forth. So between Eric and Pam, instead of going down to Madison for one meeting, we had 6 meetings and we were busy. The interesting or the coolest part of it is we've got this thing down pat. I say, this is Eric Atkinson, our new city administrator, and I hand it off to him and he just talks. So we got it figured right out on how to do this. So I'm ready to take him on the road, and I'm just gonna say, and here's Eric, and let him go. So with that, I thought we had a real good time. We accomplished a lot in our short amount of time while we're in Madison. So appreciate your time. Thank you. Anything else that as far as communications goes, or any questions? We can do that at this time. No communications? Okay, here we go. Keep on going. Okay, under claims, if we'd like to pay the bills, we'd have a revised, is it revised or updated? I should say updated. Same, I guess.
Yep, same.
Same updated or revised list. Rylan?
Yeah, I would make a motion to pay the revised claims list.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Laura?
I'll second Ryland's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion?
Can we always have it this short?
Would have been
We will
shorter,
do our
but
best.
yeah. Oh, the claims list. For sure. All right. Any other discussion on this? Roll call vote.
Yanko,
Yes.
McCullough,
Yes.
Schweppes,
Yes.
Solberg,
Yes.
Schlue,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Luther.
Yeah.
Berstad,
Yes.
Sutherland.
Yes.
Okay, great. That takes us down to licenses, license list. Jeff?
I'll make a motion to approve the licenses as presented.
Okay, motion been made. Is there a second to Jeff's motion? Eric?
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? No. All in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have a dilemma this evening. Cody's not here. So does anybody want to make it to adjourn? Jeff Luther?
I'm his backup. I can make a motion to adjourn.
Motion been made to adjourn. Is there a second to that motion? Mary?
I will second Jeff motion.
Motion made to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Well, thank you, everybody. Have a good week.
Go, Mayor. Sign your life away.
Yep. You're the man there.
Recording stopped.